What's up everybody, Coach Mills here, and in this video we're going to be doing a 1.05 Pro Hero tier list. That's right, we're going to be basing this a lot about pro play, what the successful pros are picking and by how much, so that we know exactly how powerful a hero is at the highest level. On top of this, at the end, we're going to be placing Killjoy somewhere in the tier list, so make sure you watch to the end, but smash that like and subscribe button, kick back, relax, and let's just jump right into it, shall we? So the first tier, we gotta talk about the S tier, and these are gonna be the characters that not only have the highest pick rate at pro play, but are incredibly powerful in your ranked games as well. The number one character in the S tier is undoubtedly Cypher, with, in the last tournament, having a near 100% pick rate. That's right, Cypher basically was always played. Basically, any team that did decently well was playing Cypher. Cypher is a staller information gatherer, and especially with the popular strat, the 4-1 split, and if you don't know what that is where you put a staller like a Brimstone on one side, and you put Cypher's utility on that exact same side, and then you stack the rest of the team with 4 players. Now what this does is not only let the Brimstone combo smokes with trap wires, but you get a constant flow of information with the Cypher cam, and enemies are incentivized to not push the Brimstone site because they see smokes plus Cypher information. So instead of pushing that site, they fall right into the 4 people stacking and basically get annihilated. That's why it's a very powerful mix-up strategy that's being used a lot, and just in general, Cypher is just so strong. He is the best character in the entire game right now. Now the next character on the list is Sage, and yes, there was a little period of time where TSM or T1 were not playing the Sage specifically on Ascent due to the fact that they wanted to run double smokes. Now Cloud9 and Sentinels, which is 2 of our most successful teams right now in NA, both of these teams have stated that the Sage is almost absolutely necessary, and they've been picking Sage a lot, and Sage has the second highest pick rate in pro play. Here's the big thing about Sage though. Sure, Sage is a staller, but they are playing it fundamentally different as opposed to just a Sentinel class. And here's what I mean by that. They will use the wall and they will use the slows, right? And they will stall for a while, but then afterwards, they will assume a more proactive lurker role. And you might be asking, why would Sage be being aggressive? Well, with the self-heal, Sage is actually great at trading out, because if you kill somebody, but you end up at like 5 health, most characters in the game will not be able to become full health again, but Sage can. And that means that Sage, after she doesn't have abilities anymore, she can lurk, get a kill, but lose a lot of life, heal herself, and then still go lurking, and then by the time she gets another kill, she can get another heal off. And basically, they're using that heal selfishly, but they're being proactive after they use their abilities and kind of blew their ability load. So that's kind of the idea behind this aggressive lurk style Sage. I am definitely going to make a breakdown of this playstyle more later on, but if you want to see it, definitely let me know in the comments down below. Now the last character in S tier that is of course seeing tons of play, and you probably guessed it at this point, it's Brimstone. Brimstone is seeing an enormous amount of pick rate, and it should be pretty obvious why. Brimstone smokes are very easy to use, they're very long lasting, and Brimstone's kit altogether is just incredibly powerful. Now, Stem Beacon aside, we're not going to talk about that too much. It's his weakest ability, but his Molly and his Orbital Strike are great AoE abilities, and they're very good Spike Plant denial. Brimstone is one of those characters that can definitely stall enemies out. He can create opportunities on attack. He can continuously smoke off powerful mid defensive positions like A mid on bind. Brimstone is one of those core members that you can pretty much play on any map in any team composition. If you have a good Brimstone, he can provide so much strategically to your team, and in pro play, he is doing just that. While he's not picked quite as much as a character like Cypher or Sage, he still sees a giant amount of pick rate, and that's why he's in the S tier. Now moving on to the A tier, we actually have 4 characters in the A tier, and the top of the A tier is Omen, who basically the only time that Brimstone is not being picked is when Omen takes his spot. A lot of times teammates are playing actually both Brimstone and Omen, but if you have a very good Omen, they can fill the role of a Brimstone on certain maps. Now, another strong aspect about Omen is the fact that he has that flash as well. So not only does he have smokes, but he has flashes, he has that lurker capability, but at the same time, he can fill a vital macro role for any given pro team. That being said, however, in ranked play, there's a fundamental problem with people not timing correctly on Omen, because unlike Brimstone, you can't just smoke off 3 points at the exact same time and rush in. You need to have proper timing, and you need to be pretty precise in what you're smoking at what time, so it takes a great deal more skill, in my opinion, to maximize the power level of Omen. But that being said, with flashes, smokes, and all the other X factors of teleport with Omen, Omen is one of the strongest characters coming into the new meta, and I would be very surprised if we don't see him more and more, even if we're just going to see him more alongside of Brimstone instead of an exclusivity in a team composition. Now, the next character in the A tier is our second information gatherer, Sova, who is seeing a ton of play as well as Cypher. You see, double info is pretty meta right now. I mean, double info is almost always played, even when teams are not playing double smoke. Both Cloud9 and Sentinels played double info on a lot of different maps, and they neglected that second smoke. They just played one smoke. Now, I do think that Sova is actually exponentially more powerful in pro play than he is in ranked play, even though Sova's not bad in ranked play by any means. It's just that having that extra information about rotation, having that information about baiting, and being able to basically call an enemy team on their bluff. Like, are they really rotating off, or are they actually just waiting in default, waiting for us to kind of move or rotate only for them to push in? Sova can kind of check people on that. And with two information abilities in both the drone and the recon arrow, Sova has an offensive capability as well, where you can be much more proactive on attack as opposed to Cypher. And that is one of the weaknesses of Cypher, is just he can guard for flanks, but as far as being aggressive and aggressively gathering information, it is a little bit more difficult than Sova. So all that being said, Sova is definitely in the A tier, and he's very, very powerful in the double info meta that we're kind of in right now. And I'm also excited about teams like Sentinel when Sinatra is basically on defense, perma wall banging with the Sova LMG strat. I mean, he's rocking Odins, he's rocking Ares, and just perma recon plus LMGing a wall on defense. And it's actually, I mean, they're dominating right now. So it's not just a meme strategy, it is their predominant strategy. So I do think that Sova definitely deserves this spot on the tier list, and maybe he might even need to be upped a little bit. Now, the last spot in A tier is actually shared by two separate agents, and you're like, okay, why two separate agents? Well, the two agents are Raze and Jet. And the reason that both of these heroes are in this slot is because often players are picking one or the other, and they're kind of being interchangeable. So basically, you want Jet on some maps because Jet is a really good opper. She has the mobility. She can lurk a lot better, play in really tight cubbies that most characters wouldn't play in. But Raze is seeing a ton of play, specifically on Bind, playing around those teleporters, specifically on Split, kind of really gumming up that middle of the section. You hold defense on mid. You could flush people out on attack. You could flush people out of vents. That's what pro players are doing a lot. So Raze is really powerful on those maps, but Jet can get a lot more value on open maps. Like, Jet plays a lot into Ascent, for example, specifically Cloud9's 10s. He plays Jet basically all the time on Ascent. He opts, he lurks, he does all sorts of powerful plays with Jet's ultimate. So these characters are kind of, like I said, they both fill a role, and most of the time, pretty much never, I don't really see teams play Raze and Jet. It's like one or the other. And a lot of times, like 10s, for example, is the example I used. He plays Jet or Raze. He is the Raze and Jet player. So sometimes he'll play Raze, sometimes he'll play Jet. And Sentinels, for example, will have like Sinatra playing Raze. However, Sentinels doesn't really play that much Jet, so it really depends on the team. Some teams are really going for the Jet a lot more, like a player like Wardell, whose specialization is opping. He will play the Jet a lot, and he won't play the Raze as much because Raze isn't an opper. But like I said, these characters are interchangeable. They're both very, very powerful, but they're good at different things, so they're played on different maps, and different players specialize in either one or both of these depending on their given play style. Now, moving on to the B tier, we only have one character in the B tier. That's it, yeah, just one character, and it's Phoenix. Phoenix is great, and I honestly, if I had room, I'd probably just smush him in the A tier, but I don't really want to just smash 5 characters in the A tier. Phoenix is incredibly powerful, and he's one of those characters that is leading the charge in and against the sniper meta, quote unquote, because he pop flashes out of smokes. It gives enemies a lot less time to react to the tail of Phoenix. Phoenix is just a great lurker. He's seeing a lot of play. TSM's playing him, Sentinels is playing him. Phoenix is a really, really good character. The only reason that he's in B tier is simply due to the available slots on a team. Like Cypher, Sage, Brimstone, these characters are like basically essential on a lot of teams. And even if you're not playing like Double Smoke and Omen, then you're going to be playing a Sova, and then you only have like a couple of spots left. sometimes that goes to a Phoenix, but other times it goes to a Jet or a Raze, and sometimes you could play both, but you have to sacrifice either double info or double smoke. So it really is interesting how it's like fitting pieces together. And the most interesting thing to me is that Phoenix has become almost one of the best pop flashers. That being said, however, Omen kind of can fill that role while still providing smokes as well. So I typically either see team compositions rock that double smoke with Omen Brim, and then other times I'll see that team composition rock like an Omen and be more aggressive with a Phoenix. But I think it really depends on personal preference of a team, and a lot of times the pro players on the team, what they like to play and what they feel comfortable playing, I think that dictates a lot of what they're playing. I think that teams have options and players get to pick and choose or move to the options they like the most, and Phoenix has a lot of powerful capabilities, and that's why he's in the B tier. Could be in the A tier, but for now, he's just in the B tier. Now, moving down to the C tier, these are characters that have really low pick rate, and a lot of these characters are honestly getting buffs, and they'll probably be moved up or down, but as far as pro play is concerned, these characters are getting closer to the bottom of the barrel. Now, in C tier, we have two characters, Breach and Viper, and I know what you're gonna say, what the heck, why is Breach in the C tier? But if you look at the pro pick rates on all the recent tournaments, Breach is just seeing a very little amount of play. And yes, every once in a while, T1 will whip it out, or every once in a while, TSM will whip it out. But Breach, pound for pound, is not winning that many games. He's not doing a better job than any of the other flashers. Like, when you're deciding to pick a Breach, you have to choose not to pick a Phoenix. You have to choose not to pick Raze or Jet or some combination, or double smoke, or Omen. Like, there's so many different cuts that you have to make in a team composition if you're playing a Breach, and Breach is really one-dimensional. He's really easy to react to at a pro level, where you can 180 from his flashes incredibly easy. You can't hide the intro to the flash like you can with Phoenix through smokes. The character is not as versatile as something like Omen, who has flashes and smokes. It is just hard-pressed to choose to pick Breach. And yes, he's great in ranked play, flushing people out of corners and all that sorts of things, punishing enemies for holding too aggressively. But in ranked play, people don't make those mistakes, and they're not as susceptible to those things. And even if they are playing that way, they're playing characters with mobility like Jet that can get out of those cubbies. So Breach is just not really where he needs to be right now. But I do know that there's some buffs down the pipeline, and maybe it will affect his pick right here, get him out of the C tier. Now, the last character in the C tier is Viper, and Viper has been tried here and there by pro teams. You saw specifically Cloud9 up against Sentinels in the finals of a big tournament. Cloud9 tried to play Viper on defense, and it worked pretty well. They had a huge disadvantage before they defended. They were down by so many games, but Viper seemed to do a lot of work, and I think Viper is good, specifically on defense on split. I think she's very good. All that considered, however, Viper just seems to still be lacking in general. She is a powerful character in ranked play. I can't reiterate that enough. Everyone knows just how powerful she can be, but for pro play, she is just lacking. And remember what we're talking about here when we talk about pro pick rates. Every pick you put on your team of 5 agents, you're losing some other character. And let's say you're building a really powerful team comp. You want a Cypher, you want a Sage, you want a Brim. That's 3 characters. Okay, now you have 2 slots. Who do you fill that 2 slots with? Oh, I want that powerful AoE denial punish in Raze. Okay, now you have all 4 characters. You have 4 slots. Who's your next one? Oh, well, it's a double info meta, so let's get a Sova. Your composition's filled out. Now you have Cypher, Sage, Brimstone, Sova, and Raze, and you want to add a Viper, so who do you mix out for that? Oh, you got to give up info, or you got to give up a smoke, or you got to give up a slow. There's just all these powerful options, and when crafting a team composition, it's going to be really hard pressed for you to pick Viper, and that's probably part of the reason why she's so low on the tier rate, when there's so many other characters that you would rather have in a given team composition. Now, moving on to the F tier, and this is, I mean, there's only one character left. The F tier has the worst pick rate in the game, and it's Reyna. I mean, that's the last character left, so you already know. Reyna is good in ranked. Like I said, most of these characters in the bottom tiers can be powerful in ranked, but Reyna is not good at pro play. You have to get final blow. You can't have one of your allies get the final kill. You actually have to get kills to be effective. Lear is not effective from close range, and there's a lot of counterplay to it, like just shooting Lear. And here's the biggest problem with Reyna. When you get that first kill, it's great, because you can kind of snowball from there, and that's amazing. But one of the strongest aspects about Lear is that it doesn't affect your teammates, but you're not seeing really aggressive dueler plays, where like a dueler will go in with his entire team, use an ability, and they'll go in together. You're seeing more of that pop flasher lurker style, where they kind of do their own thing or with one other person. So that strongest aspect of that ability is not even capable to be used at the highest level of play. Now, do I think that they will mess with Reyna? I really don't, because I don't think that she needs to be a character that sees pro play. I'm actually happy that she doesn't see pro play, but for a ranked stopper, she's great, and I think that that is just fine for her role. But when we're talking about a pro tier list, like a pro player hero tier list, she's F tier for sure with an insanely low pick rate. Now, before we end, we got to talk about Killjoy. And yes, Killjoy hasn't seen any pro play yet, and even in this phase tournament that's going to happen this weekend, which you should watch, by the way, she will not be played. They actually disabled her. They're not going to be playing Killjoy in the tournament for competitive integrity's sake, which is something I agree with. We're not going to talk about that too much. But where should Killjoy actually land on this tier list when looking at what pros are doing, what is Killjoy's kit, and what is the most likely place that she would end up on this tier list? So the thing that first stands out to me is that she has information gathering, she's a defensive type hero, and she has powerful punish abilities. Well, all three of these things, especially the information gathering part, make it so she's not any bit similar to the C and F tier characters, not even the B tier character. So in my opinion, she's automatically in the realm of characters that have more powerful abilities. So I would assume that she's at least B tier just from that regard alone, based on what all the other characters are being used at pro play. Now, on top of that, the biggest comparison that is being made right now to Killjoy is Cypher, who, if you haven't noticed, is the undisputed champion of Valorant right now. So being compared to the best character in the game, that is exactly what you want to be. And especially with the prevalent 4-1 strat that I was talking about, with 4 people stacking a site, but the one person having extra utility, I think that this could be even more feasible with Killjoy. You could have Brimstone on 1 point plus Killjoy turrets and all the alarm bots and nano swarms on default, all that on one side while your Killjoy is actually on the other side. And this could do a mock 4-1 impression, not to mention just the information gathering and the punish of Killjoy is pretty powerful in pro play, I think, automatically. Now, the big question that comes up, though, is does Cypher's spot at the top, steal Killjoy's role in a composition, or does she thrive well with him together? And that's the big question. It could be Cypher's just a better version of Killjoy, and that makes Killjoy never played. Or it could be Cypher and Killjoy are both very powerful together, so play both of them together. And that really could mean the difference between Killjoy being extremely powerful and extremely picked, or it could mean the difference in Killjoy kind of lacking. But with double info being the meta, and in my opinion, Killjoy is very good at gathering info as well, I do think that Killjoy would fit somewhere around Silva's placing in the tier list. So maybe bottom of A tier is where I'd put Killjoy right now, but we'll have to wait and see. Maybe Killjoy will surprise you, and I can't wait to see the next tournament. Definitely let me know where you think Killjoy will end up in pro play in the comments down below. But if you liked the video, smash like and subscribe. If you disagreed with the picks of any of the characters on the list, too bad, so sad. No, all joking aside, I just really referenced pro pick right here. So maybe your favorite character is in the low tier or whatever, but keep in mind that I'm not making this based on rank play or even my own opinion about power level. I'm making this based on pro pick rate. So that's just something to keep in mind, a little thing to think about. Anyways, thanks for coming by. Make sure you hydrate. I'm Coach Mills, and of course, until next time.